Hello students. Picture this scenario. In the halls of a school, students united in a decision of great importance. They took their matter to the head boy, girl, who, recognizing its importance, took it to the coordinator. After understanding the importance, the coordinator then presented the case to the principal, whose decision would shape the student's future. Then a circular or order was announced and posted on the bulletin board. So students, do you see the efforts involved by different people? There was not only a single person involved in decision making but multiple people at different levels. Similarly, when a decision has to be taken for our country, different people at different levels are involved. Now, to understand how is a major policy decision taken, we've divided this video into the following parts for your understanding. First, a government order. Second, the decision makers. And third, need for political institutions. Let's get started with the first topic, a government order. But what is an order? A government order is an official document that tells people what they need to do based on the government's rules or decisions. On August 1990, something extraordinary happened in our country, India. The government issued a significant order, which is also known as an office memorandum. The order was known by the OM number 36012-3190-EST, SCT, dated the 13th of August 1990. Despite its lengthy name, this one-page document sparked intense debates and had a lasting impact. Imagine it as a secret message from Joint Secretary, causing a disturbance and changing the way things operated in our country. This order was a game changer, introducing a policy decision that generated discussions and controversies. The order boldly announced that 27% of the vacancies in civil posts and services under the Government of India would be reserved for a special category of people, called the socially and educationally backward classes, or SEBC for short. Now, SEBC is a term used to describe individuals belonging to castes that the government considers socially and educationally disadvantaged. Before this order, job reservations, or the benefits of reserved positions, were only available to two groups, the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. But with this new decision, a third category was introduced, giving opportunities to those who belong to the backward classes. It meant that only individuals from these backward classes would be eligible to compete for the 27% of job positions reserved exclusively for them, while others could not. Can you imagine the impact of such a decision? It opened doors for a whole new group of people to have access to government jobs. This order marked a turning point in our country's history. It was a step towards creating a more inclusive society, where opportunities were extended to those who had been left behind. Now, as we have understood the first topic, it's time to move on to the second one, the decision makers. Students, let us now unravel the mystery behind who actually decided to issue that significant memorandum we've been talking about. Let's think logically. A decision as big as this couldn't have been made by the person who simply signed the document. That officer was merely following instructions from someone higher up. And that someone was none other than the Minister of Personnel, Public Grievances, and Pensions. This minister, along with their department, played a crucial role in making this decision happen. But wait, there's more to the story. A major decision like this would have involved several important figures in our country. You might remember some of them from your previous class. Let's quickly recap. First, we have the President, who is the head of the state and holds the highest formal authority in the country. Next, we have the Prime Minister, who is the head of the government and exercises most of the governmental powers. The Prime Minister is responsible for making important decisions and leads the meetings where key discussions take place. And of course, we have the parliament, which consists of the president and two houses, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. The Prime Minister must have the support of the majority of Lok Sabha members to effectively govern. So, were all these influential individuals involved in the decision-making process regarding the office memorandum? Let's find out together. This office memorandum didn't just pop out of thin air. It was the result of a series of events that unfolded over time. It all began in 1979 when the Government of India appointed the Second Backward Classes Commission, headed by B.P. Mandal. That's why it was commonly known as the Mandal Commission. The commission was given the important task of identifying socially and educationally backward classes in India, and suggesting measures for their progress. After a thorough examination, the Mandal Commission presented its report in 1980, which contained several recommendations. One of these recommendations was that 27% of government jobs should be reserved for the socially and educationally backward classes. Now, this report and its recommendations were discussed and debated in the parliament. And then, in the midst of all this enthusiasm, something extraordinary happened. The Lok Sabha election took place. During this election, the Janata Dal party made a bold promise in its manifesto. It declared that if it came to power, it would indeed implement the Mandal Commission report. The Janata Dal won the election, and its leader, V.P. Singh, became the Prime Minister of our great nation. But the story doesn't end there. Once in power, the government wasted no time in taking action. The President of India, in his address to the Parliament, publicly announced the government's intention to implement the Mandal Commission's recommendations. Then, on the 6th of August 1990, the Union Cabinet formally decided to implement the recommendations. This decision sent ripples of anticipation and excitement throughout the nation. The very next day, Prime Minister V.P. Singh stepped up in the parliament and shares this groundbreaking news through a statement in both houses. Can you imagine the buzz and anticipation among the members of parliament? The decision of the cabinet was then sent to the Department of Personnel and Training. This department, with its experienced and knowledgeable officers, diligently drafted an order in accordance with the cabinet's decision. The senior officers seeked the minister's approval, ensuring that everything is in line with the government's plan. Finally, an officer signs the order on behalf of the Union government, and thus, OM number 36,012-31-90 is born on the 13th of August 1990. But what happened after this? The country buzzed with debates, discussions, and disagreements. Newspapers and magazines overflowed with diverse views and opinions. People took to the streets in protests and counter-protests, some of which unfortunately turned violent. Why? Because this decision directly impacted thousands of job opportunities. Opinions clashed, and emotions ran high. Some argued that the existence of inequalities among different castes in India necessitated job reservations. They believed it was a way to provide a fair opportunity to communities that have been historically underrepresented in government employment. On the other hand, there were those who felt it was unfair. They argued that it denied equality of opportunity to individuals who do not belong to backward communities. These individuals might be more qualified for the jobs, but the reservations would prevent them from accessing those opportunities. Some even fear that this could perpetuate caste divisions and hinder national unity. Now, whenever there's a dispute over government decisions in India, you can always count on the Supreme Court and the High Courts to step in and settle the matter. And guess what? This dispute was no exception. Some individuals and associations, who were opposed to the reservation order, decided to take their concerns to court. They filed a number of cases, appealing to the courts to declare the order invalid and put a stop to its implementation. The Supreme Court of India took charge of these cases. They combined all the related cases into one, which came to be known as the Indira Sawhney and others versus Union of India case. This was a landmark moment that would determine the fate of the reservation order. 11 wise and learned judges of the Supreme Court listened carefully to the arguments presented by both sides. And finally, in 1992, the Supreme Court reached its decision. By a majority vote, the judges declared that the order issued by the Government of India was indeed valid. However, they also recognized the need for certain modifications. The Supreme Court recommended that individuals from the backward classes who were financially well off should be excluded from availing the benefits of reservation. In response to the Supreme Court's recommendations, the Department of Personnel and Training, which had been at the heart of this entire process, issued another office memorandum on the 8th of September 1993. This memorandum served as the revised policy. And just like that, the dispute came to an end. As we come to the end, let's take a moment to reflect on the last topic: need for political institutions. Imagine a country where the government has numerous responsibilities. They must ensure the safety and well-being of its citizens, provide education and health care for all, manage finances through tax collection and spending, and even formulate and implement welfare schemes. Quite a challenging task, isn't it? Now, picture this. When it comes to making important decisions about these activities, there are some individuals who bear the responsibility. These decision makers must carefully think the best course of action. However, they cannot do it alone. They need a team to put their decisions into practice. But what happens if conflicts or disagreements arise along the way? Who gets to decide what is right and what is wrong? That's where institutions step in. In any modern democracy, various arrangements, known as institutions, are put in place to handle these tasks and ensure the smooth functioning of the government. These institutions play a vital role in upholding the principles of democracy. Let's take a closer look at some of these institutions in action. First, we have the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, who are responsible for making crucial policy decisions. Second, then there are the civil servants, a dedicated group of individuals who work together to implement the decisions made by the ministers. Third, we also have Supreme Court that enters the scene if conflicts arise between citizens and the government. Now, working with institutions is not always easy. Institutions have rules, regulations, and procedures that must be followed. They involve meetings, committees, and routines, which can sometimes lead to delays and complications. It might seem easier to have one person making all the decisions without any constraints. However, that goes against the very definition of democracy. These delays and complications are not always useless. They serve a greater purpose. They allow for a wider range of people to be consulted, ensuring that decisions reflect the diverse perspectives and needs of the population. Institutions make it difficult to rush through a bad decision, protecting us from hasty judgments. They act as safeguards, ensuring that the democratic process remains fair and inclusive. So students, with this, we have come to the end of this video. Now that you've understood the chapter, open the EduRev app, study the chapter notes, and take the test of this chapter. Your marks are going to tell whether you've understood the topic. Also, here's an amazing secret. You get video lectures, chapter notes, and MCQ tests for all the chapters in the EduRev app. That's the magic of EduRev courses. You get everything in a single place. And not just social studies, you get amazing courses for maths, science, English, Hindi, and much more on EduRev. Thank you.